All right, welcome back to the channel. So we are going to talk about Jermall Charlo, Daniel Jacobs, and Demetrius Andrade or Andrade, however you're supposed to pronounce that. But the core message in this video is DAZN is trying to send the also rans at Jermall Charlo while protecting the people that they think is their cash cows, Canelo Alvarez, if he's still there, and Gennady Golovkin. As much as I would love to see a Daniel Jacobs Charlo fight or a Demetrius Andre Charlo fight, I don't think it's cool for these guys to send these second fiddle dudes at Jermall Charlo and not make the fight that can prove Jermall Charlo is the best middleweight. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. So, Jermall Charlo is the WBC 160-pound champion. He just got done beating Sergey Deverenchenko, Deverenchenko in defense of his belt. Sergey Deverenchenko, who many people thought beat Gennady Golovkin, and many people thought actually not a lot of people thought, people know Canelo Alvarez got stripped for ducking, right? So after the fight where Jermall Charlo looks excellent, just dismantles Sergey Deverenchenko. It's a one-sided fight. Deverenchenko, he did the best he could, but it was just a one-sided fight. He's not on the level of Jermall Charlo. Jermall Charlo beat him with what I think was relative ease, right? No real trouble spots, unlike the fight that Gennady Golovkin had with him, right? And definitely unlike what Canelo had with him, because Canelo wouldn't fight him at all. But that's not the conversations that I hear coming out of DAZN. Now, when you have to understand what I mean by conversations coming out of DAZN, I mean conversations coming out of the mouth of anybody associated with DAZN, because you never know. I don't know how they work their marketing and their public relations department. I don't know. So it very well could be that they're saying, hey, man, Danny, I think we want to get you this fight with Charlo. I think this fight's a lot bigger. So, hey, man, we might be able to budget X amount of money if we can get the Charlo fight. So start pushing for the Charlo fight, right? Or same thing with Demetrius Andrade, right? Hey, man, we're going to try to make this big fight. Let's get this. It makes more sense for Demetrius Andrade than it does for Daniel Jacobs, because Daniel Jacobs has already moved up to 168 pounds and would be moving back down. But there ain't no reason for these two fights to happen, man. I'm sorry. And I'm not supportive of the two fights. Well, let me put it this way. If Jermall Charlo wound up fighting Demetrius Andrade, I would not be upset about it. I would be like, let's go, cool, right? But if you look at it from the point of view of Jermall Charlo and what Jermall Charlo has proven and where those fights would actually take him relative to fights with other people, no, man, those are second fiddle options that are being thrown at Jermall Charlo, and I'll go through them. First and foremost, who are the top fiddles and who are the second fiddles? The top fiddle, the top fiddle is obviously Canelo Alvarez, right? Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin, because that's who DAZN are trying to make the big money fights for. That's who they have that's who they had the big money set aside for, right? And that is who people just in general are saying are the top welterweights, middleweights. The only people who are in the middleweight division that are on the pound for pound list are Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. Even though, in my opinion, Gennady Golovkin, I don't see why Gennady Golovkin would be there, but clearly, as far as name recognition and the type of buzz that would be created by the mainstream media, Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez are the guys. Okay, now Daniel Jacobs, what does beating Dan? Who are the second fiddle guys? The second fiddle guys are Demetrius Andrade, are the black guys. Because any other way, let me just cut it to the chase. The guys that are promoted as second fiddle on DAZN are the black guys, and that is Daniel Jacobs and Demetrius Andrade. Demetrius Andrade Well, let's start with Daniel Jacobs, because Daniel Jacobs is the one that I think is just nonsense. Just go away. No need for this. Number one, because he's already left the weight class. But most importantly, he's already lost to both Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. Why in the world should Jermall Charlo fight a guy like Daniel Jacobs who is not even in the weight class, right? When that guy who's not in the weight class has already lost to the two guys, and lost. Well, some people think that he beat Gennady Golovkin. I don't know anybody that thinks he beat Canelo Alvarez. So that doesn't do anything for him. Doesn't do anything for Jermall Charlo. Now, it does give him a good amount of money. I do think that that'd be a really good fight, especially for the black community in the United States. I mean, if that fight is in New York, guy always got to keep going around and saying, we're in the middle of this pandemic. But no, man, no. Sending the second fiddle guys at Jermall Charlo in order to and then what? Just think about this. Now, why Jermall Charlo was out here fighting Daniel Jacobs for no good reason whatsoever? Who was Canelo Alvarez fight? Right? Now, while Gennady Golovkin, if Jermall Charlo fights Demetrius Andrade, compare what he gets for fighting Gennady Golovkin for what he gets fighting Demetrius Andrade. When the fight's over, and I'm not talking about the money, because all of these guys are going to get paid good money for all of these fights. But what does he get walking out of the Demetrius Andrade fight? He gets another one. He gets the WBO belt, and he gets a bunch of people that are going to still say he's not as good as Canelo Alvarez, and that he doesn't deserve a Canelo Alvarez fight. You're going to have the same amount of people saying that he doesn't deserve a fight with Gennady Golovkin. He's not going to get the fight with Gennady Golovkin. He more than likely, I'm hoping that he can get the Canelo Alvarez fight if Canelo Alvarez leaves the zone. But do you see how these things just put Jermall, these call outs from Daniel Jacobs and Demetrius Andrade from the zone, how that puts Jermall Charlo in a position of having to fend off comments and things or the idea that he's ducking these guys, right? So there's already a line out there being sent by DAZN about how Jermall Charlo is ducking Demetrius Andrade, how there was this $7 million contract that was sent by Eddie DAZN over an email. Not over an email, because emails, that's reasonable, over a text. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I want to fight you. How about $5 million? Say yes. I mean, what kind of garbage is that? And somebody's going to come into the cast and say, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. Look, man, everybody in boxing knows if you want to deal with Jermall Charlo, you call Al Heyman. Eddie Hearn has had multiple fights with Al Heyman in the PBC. He knows how to get in contact. He knows how to get in contact with the PBC. That, my friends, was horse manure. And that's all that was. And Jermall Charlo called him out for it, but they keep pushing it. Chris Mannix kept pushing it. Now you got fighters not necessarily coming out the woodwork, because Daniel Jacobs said he wanted to fight him before, and Demetrius Andrade said that he wanted to fight him before. I just don't see why in the world there's any reason for Charlo to do it instead, unless the options of Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin have been thoroughly exhausted. But they're not going to get exhausted, because this is one of the things that happens in boxing. You have the black fighters fight each other and knock each other off. And then when they get to the other fighters, they don't have one slick fighter from the United States of America or a strong fighter. Like, they make those fighters fight each other. And when one fighter knocks that other guy, that guy's gone. Okay. So once one fighter beats another fighter convincingly, the one fighter that beat the other fighter can save a third fighter from having to fight the fighter that just got beat, because he can go to the press and say, but he lost. What sense does that make? He already lost. He's tried, like they try to do to Deontay Wilder, right? With, oh my God, I cannot wait. Right after this video, I'm doing a video, even though I don't know which one of these videos are coming out first. But man, oh man, oh man, oh man, Tyson Fury is just a wild, wild boy, man. That is just a low life. But anyway, man, let me wrap this video up by saying this, and thank you guys so much for supporting. If you look at the Charlo fight with Demetrius Andrade in and of itself in a vacuum, I like the fight. If you look at Jermall Charlo versus Daniel Jacobs in a vacuum, I like the fight. The thing that I don't like about it though is if you remove all of the names and the people and you just look at what these guys have accomplished and what the person gets out of it, there's no choice, there's no doubt whatsoever that there really is only one fight for Jermall Charlo, and that's Canelo Alvarez. And there's only one fight for Canelo Alvarez, and that is Jermall Charlo. Canelo Alvarez is bopped around to the Gennady Golovkins, to the Daniel Jacobs, to the Sergey Kovalevs, all over the place. And the guy that he needs to fight has been in the weight class with him pretty much his entire career, and he's known who this guy is, and that's the fight that should be made. Jermall Charlo versus Canelo Alvarez should be happening now. Jermall does not need to prove anything else. He doesn't need to go, he doesn't need to go through your obstacle course of black fighters that might get you beat. None of that stuff. Let's make the fight with Canelo Alvarez and see if Canelo Alvarez is better than Jermall Charlo. He very well may be. But Jermall Charlo deserves the shot and doesn't deserve, again, to be run through this, to go through your obstacle course, hopping over this guy and running around this corner. And let's see if you can duck under this and eat this and flip over that. No. Canelo Alvarez is right there, dude. He's already beaten everybody needs to do. Canelo Alvarez is mandatory. Canelo Alvarez moved the franchise to duck him. Then Gennady Golovkin went and beat somebody else that Canelo Alvarez ducked and claimed, I didn't mean to duck him. Man, fight the man. But anyway, that's my take on the situation. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.